fans, to day 3 of development camp here at Little Caesars Arena. Guys, we're in the main rink here today. It's going to be very, very exciting. We've got Team Lindsay down there on the ice. We're going to try to get to all of the players that are on Team Lindsay today. We'll do our best to break down those prospects for you, give you all the information that we can. Before we get into things, want to remind you of our stream schedule, which is for the rest of the week here. It's Thursday. We've got tomorrow and Saturday left. Tomorrow we will be on at 11:30 and then again at 6 p.m., which is for our 3v3 tournament. I'm really excited for that. If you guys haven't heard yet, I'm very excited. So we'll be on twice to stream tomorrow, and then Saturday we'll be back at 11:30 for the red and white game, which will start at noon. Guys, to kick off the show today, just like we did yesterday, I want to get your thoughts on the 2018 draft class. So we talked about them yesterday because we had a lot of those guys on the ice, and again, we've got some big names from that class here on Team Lindsay. So Art, why don't you kick it off? We'll start with you.
Well, as I said yesterday, I know that we've talked about the 1989 draft class in Red Wing history, considered one of the best drafts. Well, if you look at Zadina, Veleno, Berggren, McIsaac, Regula, and Barton, and Jesper Eliasson, the goaltender, who we haven't talked about, is also pretty well. And I don't want to overstate it, but virtually every one of those draft picks is going to get a legitimate shot at being a Red Wing, and I think several of them will be. So I think, several years from now, we could be talking about the 2018 draft class in the same breath as the 1989 draft class.
Everybody talks about Zadina and Veleno, but the guy I really want to look at down the road is McIsaac. And he's a minute-munching defenseman. What I mean by that is you can count on him to get there out on the ice and just, go out there and play well each and every shift and kind of work 26, 27, 30 minutes, and he's not going to hurt you. So it's too bad he's not here at development camp. He suffered a shoulder injury. I believe he had some surgery done.
Yes, he has.
But McIsaac is going to be a Red Wing of the future, and I think fans are really going to like him.
He was the one player, I think, that the Red Wings were kind of surprised and stunned about Veleno falling to number 30 because he was rated right around 15 in his draft class. But McIsaac going into the second round where the Red Wings were able to nab him was pure luck in a way. I mean, they couldn't believe it, their good fortune, and he was projected to be a first-round draft pick. If you ask the Red Wings about that 2018 draft class, they will tell you that the first 4 picks in their mind were all legitimate number 1 picks or first-round picks, and they got 2 of them in the second round. So I expect big things, I guess, if you couldn't tell, from the 2018 draft class.
Well, they kicked off the draft with one of our most exciting prospects. It was Phillips Zadina. So we've got a lot on him, and we're going to start things off with Carly Johnston.
Thanks, guys. Bummer to hear Phillips Zadina is injured with a hamstring strain. It sucks not seeing him out on the ice, but I know he's still learning a lot here in development camp. Earlier in the offseason, I got to catch up with Phillips Zadina off the ice and learn a little more about his journey to the Red Wings and see a little bit of personality from him. Here it is.
Zadina wants it. He's got it. He shoots. He scores! Phillips Zadina, his first National Hockey League goal!
Hey Red Wings fans, I'm Carly Johnston for Red Wings TV, and welcome to episode 3 of Coffee with Carly. Today I'm sitting down with Phillips Zadina. Philip, welcome.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
We're at the intermission at Van Andel Arena in Grand Rapids. This is your first year living here. You grew up in the Czech Republic. Where was your hometown? Tell us a little about that.
My hometown was like an hour and 20 minutes from Prague, actually. It's a kind of bigger town right now than it used to be. I love it there. So excited to go back home right now.
How did you get into hockey?
My dad, he used to play hockey, so I grew up around hockey since I was a little kid. Started doing the same things like my dad.
Do you have any siblings, or
No, I'm only child.
You're an only child, so you had to play hockey.
Exactly.
Your dad was adamant that you were playing hockey.
I had no choice, so.
So how proud were your parents when you were drafted? First round, 6th overall.
The Detroit Red Wings select from Halifax of the Canadian Hockey League, Philip Zadina.
Yeah, that was a huge night. They were so proud of me. That was unbelievable. So that was the night I will never forget. So that was pretty awesome.
And you were with the Red Wings for 9 games towards the end of the season. Got your first NHL goal.
Yeah.
Walk me through that.
That was huge. I mean, I can't even describe how did I feel, because it was my goal since I was a little kid. It was my dream. It was everything.
And it was cool too, your first NHL goal, Philip Fronic.
Yeah, exactly. So it was so sick. He passed me on the goal. So yeah.
So being here in Grand Rapids, are you living with any teammates? Are you by yourself?
No, I'm actually by myself. So just like keep some privacy.
So you're doing your own grocery shopping, your own laundry and everything? First time?
Oh yeah.
Is it a lot of work?
Yeah, I mean, it's lots of work. So, but I'm doing a good job, I would say. So.
I mean, I know you're so busy during the season, but what do you guys like to do for fun on off days?
You know, I'm pretty lucky because I have lots of Czech guys here. So we are hanging out together, going for dinner or whatever. Sometimes we went with the Libor and his little son. We went to like a trampoline.
Oh.
So we were like jumping around and you know, hanging out together.
If you were to sing karaoke, what would you sing?
Do I have to choose from the like USA songs?
No,
or?
you can choose anything.
Closer from the Chainsmokers.
Oh, wait, how does it go?
From the backseat of my road.
Oh yeah, baby, pull me closer.
In the backseat of my road.
So here, it's a little more about music. Is this picture at the arena? What kind of songs do you listen to hype yourself up?
Drake, I'm listening Post Malone a lot, and the Chainsmokers a lot, and a couple of Czech songs.
What's your go-to Drake song?
Go-to Drake song is probably Sicko Mode.
Oh, that's what Giovanni Smith comments on the picture, Sicko Mode. So everyone knows that's your song.
Yeah.
So teach me some Czech words, some like basic Czech words. So if I'm gonna walk in somewhere and I'm gonna say hello.
Dobrý den.
Oh, that's long. Okay, so help what?
So it's like dobrý den.
Dobrý den.
If I would like translate it the same, what I said in Czech, it would be like great day.
Okay.
So it's like dobrý den. It means
it's
like
a greeting, but it's like have a good one.
Yeah.
So how about bye?
Bye. Naschle.
Naschle.
Yeah.
Naschle.
Yeah, naschle.
That's pretty good then.
Yeah, that was pretty good. Yeah.
Well, thanks so much for taking the time out and sitting down with me.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank
you. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Guys, thanks for tuning in to Coffee with Carly. I'll see you next time.
That was a ton of fun getting to catch up with him in Grand Rapids. Good news about Phillips Zadina, though. He just took the ice. Looks like he's testing out that hamstring. Hopefully made a full recovery. Not doing anything too rigorous. Don't want to hurt it more. But it was definitely fun getting to know him and listening to him sing and learning some Czech words. He's got a good, big personality. Hoping to see him wear that winged wheel on his sweater this season. You guys, back to you.
Carly, thank you so much. It was great to see his personality shine through in that feature. That was awesome. So good to see that. And of course, great to see him on the ice today. So guys, why don't you talk about Phillips Zadina and his play?
Well, first and foremost, it's nice to start learning some languages, different languages while we're up here. That was a great segment with Carly. And I think the other thing is that he's a dapper dresser too. So I think we should have a Red Wings magazine just for him to show his suits and everything else. He is going to be a fan favorite down the road here in Detroit. He's also a dynamic hockey player. We just saw him score his first goal right there on the screen, and he's got a great shot. Art, you talked about getting time and space. Certainly on that first goal he ever scored, he had a lot of time to shoot that puck. Great shot, great player, great personality, and again, the fans are really going to like him.
Yeah, I wish that Brett Hall was still somehow affiliated with the Red Wing organization or bring him up for training camp. So he could, because Brett Hall was the type of player that you forgot about him. Why you would forget about him, I don't know, because of his shot, but he always found his space, and he didn't take much time, and I think Phillips Zadina could, maybe watch a little bit of how Brett Hall had, and their shots are kind of similar. First of all, I want to say, Dobry job by Carly on Coffee with Carly. I think that's great,
There
right?
you go, there you go.
Look, Zadina is a player. I talked to him yesterday. He wanted to get out on the ice. He's been lobbying to get out on the ice. It's more of a precautionary thing. He said that the Red Wings would tell him, look, we want you ready for training camp. I mean, this is important. Don't get us wrong, development camp. But he thought he could go, so it looks like he did a little bit of lobbying and was able to convince Pete Van Zandt and the staff that he could go out there and at least see where he's at. So it's good to see it. Look, he has a shot. He's a goal scorer. He has to score goals. That's why they drafted him. He knows that. He wants that. And once he can figure out the time and space, get up to speed on the speed of the game, he should be a Red Wing for a very long time.
Very exciting to see him out there today, and he's actually reunited with one of his buddies in this development camp. We drafted Ethan Phillips last weekend in the 4th round. So before we get into talking about him, let's see what he had to say after being drafted by the Red Wings.
Since I was young, the college atmosphere is kind of what I wanted, with the whole school spirit and kind of having the whole community behind you was something really cool. And then just to have the opportunity to get the top-notch education down there is big for me and my family.
And were you able to meet a lot of the other BU commits?
Yeah. We actually went out for lunch yesterday, so it was cool to get to meet some of them for the first time and to see them, a bunch of us get picked today. It's pretty cool. Yeah.
So do you know Master of Smoke?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
have you talked to him just since he just got picked by Detroit too? Or?
Yeah. I haven't really gone on my phone today, so just trying to stay off that. But I'm so happy for him and glad that we're in the same spot.
What did Select's Academy prepare you for this next step?
I think it's just everything we had down there. I mean, on off blocks we could go down to the rink and skate for an hour in between classes, and that really helped a lot. And just being able to take advantage of the coaches we had and all of the support, everything there was huge.
What do you know about the Red Wings? Have you ever been to Detroit?
I've been to Detroit a couple times, and I got a couple buddies drafted here in Detroit with Zadina, Master Simone, McIsaac, so I know them all pretty well.
How do you know if Phillips is playing?
He actually billeted with me for a year
okay.
in Halifax.
So do you know any secrets about him?
Probably a couple, maybe.
He billeted with you in Halifax?
Yeah.
What was that like?
It was pretty cool. I was away at school, but I got to know him pretty well, and I'm sure he's pretty happy for me right now, and excited to talk to him and see him.
How special was you getting a Clark Cup this year in Sioux Falls?
That was one of the best experiences of my life. Just to have the whole team come together and make that run was something really special.
11-1. That's pretty unbelievable.
Yeah, I think it's a tribute to our leaders. We had really good leadership throughout the whole year, and no egos. Everybody just kind of bought in and did their job, and it all worked out.
So when you do get your phone, you're expecting a text from Phillips?
I hope so, yeah.
How difficult is it to sit and watch on the second day like that and wait to hear your name called?
I mean, it's you never know when you're getting picked, so each pick is coming, you're crossing your fingers hoping it's you, but when it comes, it's like the world's lifted off your shoulders. It's a good feeling.
Did you join Sioux Falls like mid-season?
Yeah.
What was that like, trying to get acclimated and then going on a long run with that?
The group of guys there were awesome. I was able to fit in right away. They made it easy, and especially with the coaching as well, they put me into a great spot from the start.
It looked like they had a big group with you today. Was there with you?
Yeah, my family, my sister, one of my best friends, two of my uncles, my cousin, and a couple of my first hockey coaches.
What's it like sharing it with all?
It's going to be awesome. I know we're going to celebrate tonight, and it's a great feeling.
Did you have much inkling or interaction with Detroit? Did you know that there was interest in you? Or?
I had a feeling that there was some pretty good interest. I felt like I had a really good interview with them at the Combine, and I had a good connection with them, and then just talking with some of their scouts throughout the year.
What gives you the impression when you have a good interview compared to just, I'm sure you hear a lot of the same questions at the Combine, like what made that one stand out?
I think it's just it wasn't just a one-way conversation where they're asking questions. We kind of had it was a back and forth conversation, not just about hockey. Able to make some connections and kind of get to know them too.
Ethan Phillips, guys, he played last season in Sioux Falls. It's in USHL. And you heard him mention the relationship that he had with Philip Zadina. His family actually hosted Zadina in Halifax, and he said they got pretty close over the time that Zadina spent there. What do you think it's like for him to not, of course, be drafted by the Red Wings, which is awesome, but kind of be reunited with Philip Zadina?
Well, I think he feels great about it. I know that Philip Zadina feels great about it because he was tweeting and saying that the Red Wings got a really good player. I think Ethan Phillips is really interesting. You know, we've talked about a lot about high hockey IQ and an intelligence level that the Red Wings look for in every hockey player they drafted. He is from Halifax, Nova Scotia, and he he decided to go the college route. He's going to go to Boston University as well. But many of the Canadian writers asked him, and I don't know if that was picked up in the scrum or not, he went to Sioux Falls halfway into the season, played 50 games for them, and he decided not to go a traditional CHL route. And the reason is because he felt his whole life it was important for him to go to college and get an education. So I think that played very, very well with what the Red Wings are trying to do. So I think he and Zadina being good buddies, and another good buddy of his family also billeted Nico Hischier, who was a #1 pick a few years ago, who plays for the Devils now. So that's I think that the comfort level, if you can bring somebody in and they already have a buddy or somebody who's already can show them a little bit of lay of the land, like Zadina is going to show Ethan Phillips, and then he's going to BU where he'll be playing with Master Simone and also Casper Cancelo, who are Red Wing guys. So the Red Wings will be in on BU a little bit, and Harkoff and his gang will talk to them. I think this is a good opportunity, and he'll have plenty of time to develop.
One of the things that I've noticed about Phillips is that he's wearing number 22, and that tells me that the Red Wings really like him. Usually when you're a young player and you get drafted, you get a high number. You get a low number, like Zadina has 11, he's got 22. I think they think really highly of you. Phillips, he's not a big guy, 5'9", 146 pounds, has time to grow within that body. But, as you mentioned, Art, his point production pretty good last year, almost a pointer game player, kind of a smaller player, plays with some grit as well, quick feet, and he's got that ability to go through traffic and make defenders miss on him. So when you don't have the size, those are the types of tools that you need to get around defenders. And I really like him. I was watching him skate, and we were watching him on the monitor here, just going through the drills out there. He looks pretty smooth out there, and he's a good stick handler.
And I saw that you mentioned, or heard that you mentioned his size. Is that something, you can see it pretty much everywhere in the NHL. Forwards are not as big as they used to be. You see a lot of 5'8", 5'9" guys. Is that just the way the game is going?
Well, it's a speed game. It's younger. I mean, the way the rules are being called now, you look at it. I know fans still like to see the scrap or two, but it's become a game of speed. And the thing that we say time and space. I do want to add something. When Ken and I tried out for the Red Wings many, many years ago, I was number 106, and Ken was number 107. So we didn't have much of a chance. No, we didn't get much of a look.
They angled the numbers on your back.
Yeah, right, exactly.
They went from the
all
left
the way
shoulder
across.
to the
It was
right,
diagonally across, right? Exactly. But no. In all seriousness, certainly, if you look at I think a lot of it, Ken, maybe is Alex DeBrincat, who is a 40-goal scorer in this league. He's from this area. I believe it's Farmington Hills, and he was drafted by Chicago. A number of teams passed on him, and since that time, Cole Caulfield, who was drafted in the first round. If you can score, let's be honest here. If you're a goal scorer, if you can put the puck in the net, if you can put points on the board, I don't think they care how big you are.
And somebody that did put points on the board in his short stint with the Red Wings was Taro Hirose. And guys, we're going to get your thoughts on him in just a second. But right now, let's go to Carly Johnston with more.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, another big guy to watch out on the ice. See, he was up here playing his NHL game for the Red Wings.
We just can't hear it.
And there he is. You see Taro Hirose. Let's talk a little bit more about him, guys. As I said, he had a nice little stint with the Red Wings there at the end of the season. What are you looking for out of him? Ken, let's start this with you.
Well, he was amazing, and you never know what you're going to get when you sign a free agent. And, we talked yesterday about Ryan Kuffner, and really didn't do much in 10 games. But you look at Hirose, and I think he had a 4 or 5 game point streak right off the hop, and he had 7 points in 10 games, and he really looked like he always belonged in the National Hockey League, and that's just a terrific thing for the Red Wings and for the fans here, because I think he's just going to keep growing and keep developing, and it seems like he's a National Hockey Leaguer. The puck follows him on the ice. He's a really good setup man. He did score 1 goal, but I think his bread and butter is setting people up, Art.
Well, he made several great plays. Very rarely does a guy walk into a NHL locker room and you have veteran players talking about his hockey sense and how he makes great plays. The thing about Taro Hirose that I like, he was at development camp last year and I thought they should have signed him. I mean, he really stood out. So I'm not going to say this happened and I have no I don't know if this is true or not, but I almost think there was a gentleman's agreement with Sean Horkoff and his, ties to Michigan State University that, hey, if you keep progressing, and I think he was, tied for the nation NCAA in point total, that I think the Red Wings, he was on their radar from last development camp on. I'm not surprised that they signed him. And, I believe his consecutive point streak was a Red Wings rookie record, or he tied it for most consecutive points to begin, his career with.
And keep in mind, let's talk a little bit about Yuri Fisher too, because he was working on Hirose and Kuffner and signing them for 2 or 3 years. It's not like he just went out and signed them. He was watching them for a long, long time, and so to be able to do that and get them to sign with Detroit, I think is a feather in the cap for Yuri Fisher.
Well, I agree with that. I think you're absolutely right, and that's one thing with Yuri Fisher. First of all, his travel miles or whatever must be, he can probably go wherever, travel for free the rest of his life. But he is really not so much a forgotten man, but Yuri Fisher, his job is to look at college talent and guys that are going to be unrestricted free agents in North America and in Europe. And Hirose and Kuffner are 2 of those guys. And another guy that we haven't talked about and is not here, I thought he might be, is Oliver Kasky.
Yeah.
That is also a Yuri Fisher thing. So, scouting is essential in today's game, especially since, because it's a hard cap league, and I know I'm getting a little bit off the subject here, but because it's a hard cap league, you have to draft really well, and you have to be really astute in your free agent signings. And obviously, it looks like the Red Wings are doing a good job.
All right, well, looking at Taro Hirose, he was playing at MSU this past season, and after he played with the Red Wings, he had to go back to MSU. He had to go take finals and everything, so that's pretty interesting to play in the NHL and then have to go back. And Carly Johnston got to sit down with him, so let's get more from her.
Great guy, great hockey player. Really looking forward to what he's going to do during development camp. Not just that, hopefully with the Red Wings this season, I think he could make a big splash in this league. Guys, back to you.
That's why. All right, well, here's Taro Hirose. I guess we'll hold off on that feature, but like I said, he had to go back and play at MSU, so that was pretty exciting for him.
I think it's great to be a student athlete, and I remember talking with Red Berenson at the University of Michigan all the time about you don't get a ring unless you go back and finish your college. And the thing about being a student athlete, especially when you play at a prestigious university like Michigan State or Michigan, is the fact that, once you finish your career, you've got something to fall back on. You never know what's going to happen in your pro career, but even if that doesn't pan out, at least you can go and make something out of yourself. And I admire players that go the college route. Nothing against juniors. I think it's more of an NHL lifestyle when you play junior hockey. But again, if you really want some something to fall back on, you go to college and you have some great times there, and also you learn how to play the game and learn about life experiences as well.
Well, Ken, I want to piggyback on that. Years ago, Bob Rouse, former Red Wing defenseman, told me he was from British Columbia and he chose to go the junior hockey route. And again, hey, to each his own, everyone must cultivate their own garden, so to speak. But what I will say about that is that Bob Rouse told me at that time that if he had a son and he was a good hockey player, he would tell him to go to college, because Rouse took his summers to get his high school diploma in between summers of playing hockey, because he said, an education is something that you really need, because, he had saw the rigors of the NHL and he knew, and he was an accomplished player, but he still said, I would tell my son to go to college just because it's not a sure thing. And I think that Taro Hirose and let's compliment his parents on this too. I'm sure once he signed, I'm sure mom or dad got on the phone with him and said, okay, you might be a Red Wing now, but hey kid, remember, that degree's waiting for you in East Lansing.
And as you guys mentioned earlier, he was a great setup guy, especially in that stint he had with the Red Wings. So hopefully we're going to see more of that. Starting with the 3-on-3 tournament tomorrow, he will be a very exciting guy to watch. And we've been counting down our favorite 3-on-3 goals, overtime game winners from the past season. So let's give you guys number 2.
Michaels with a feed pass. Larkin breaking it all alone. He can win it for Detroit. He moves in. He scores! Dylan Larkin with the game-winning goal in overtime. And the Red Wings defeat the Maple Leafs 5-4.
As I said, 3-on-3 tournament Friday night, 6 p.m. You can watch that live on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, or DetroitRedWings.com. We'll be here giving you all of that action. And I don't want to spend too much time on that Dylan Larkin goal, but I do have to say it was my favorite one of the season, personally.
Well, that was a wild game, so to speak. I think the Red Wings were up big, right, Ken? And then Toronto makes their gallant comeback.
I think they tied it with about a minute to go in regulation.
You know, I will say I was at Dylan Larkin's hockey school on Monday. He the current Red and White Authority podcast. Dylan is up right now, and it's with Dylan. But I was watching these kids do these drills, and there was a group off to the side that was practicing their goal-scoring celebration move, and it was all Dylan Larkin's move. They were all, I mean, so it's really funny seeing these little kids because they're kind of wobbly and stuff.
Could they even skate?
Right, exactly. And they're all trying to emulate Dylan Larkin's goal-scoring celebration move.
It's funny, too, because remember Wayne Gretzky used to do that little short hop dance type thing after he scored.
Oh, yeah.
It seemed like all of his camps or campers, the young kids, would do the same thing. So, yeah, I guess you're seeing it from Dylan Larkin's group as well.
All right, guys, let's move on to another prospect, a 2018 7th round pick. It's Otto Maki. Art, why don't you get us started with this one?
Well, I just wrote his by the numbers. This is a guy who is defying the odds because when the Red Wings first drafted him, the joke was he was 5'6" and about 110 pounds. By the end of the draft, he was suddenly 5'8" and about 150. He makes plays happen. He is a point producer. He needs to get bigger and stronger, yet he has excelled at every level that he's been at. He's a playmaker and a goal scorer. He has an enormous skill set. He's a great skater, and I think the Red Wings are really, really high on him. And every level that he's gone to, this much like, compared to almost like a Joe Hicketts, just because of his size, where people are always telling him you're not going to do well, you're not going to make it, and he is, quote unquote, give him the one-finger salute, so to speak, and has done it very, very well. Kevin Maki is obviously a guy to look out for because he is high on the Red Wings' radar.
7th round pick, 191st overall in the 2018 draft, Kevin Maki. And the thing about him and what you're hoping for as a Red Wing management organization group is you're looking for the diamond in the rough at those lower rounds. And if you can hit a home run and somehow find a player or two that is a late round selection, and then you get two guys that are on the top of your list in that same year, boy, you're going to go up the ladder fast.
Henrik Zetterberg was drafted in the 7th round, wasn't he? That would be considered one of those diamonds in the rough.
Yeah, and that's the thing. You're looking at players that maybe can hit you that home run, and you never know. That's the thing about the draft. Some of your top picks never make it, but sometimes you get lucky and you get a guy in the 7th or 8th round that turned out to be a very good pro.
Henrik Zetterberg, he was vacationing when the NHL draft was going on. He had no clue that he was drafted by the Red Wings. Somebody called him on the phone and let him know, and he was like the most shocked guy on the planet. I've actually been drafted into the NHL, and obviously that did work out very, very well.
Yeah, we'll hope to see the same out of Kevin Maki. Let's see what he had to say after his first day of development camp.
You had a strong finish to your season. Did something just click, or was it just getting more opportunity?
I don't know. It just clicked, I guess.
Your ice time was pretty consistent all year long?
In the juniors, yeah. But with the men, I wasn't playing so much, and that was a lot tougher.
How much stronger, bigger have you gotten over in 1 year's time here? I'm sure that was one of the main focus for everybody, but how do you think you progressed in that area?
I think I got bigger and stronger, so I think good.
I mean, consider weight-wise, what are you now compared to what you were then?
I've put on like 8 kilos since last year.
So how much do you weigh now?
70 kilos. So how much was it?
2 pounds per kilo.
Yeah. So 151 was it now?
Can you tell us about your mister?
Well, I've known Antti since little kid. We played in the same team for many years now, and he's a close friend of mine.
What kind of a player is he?
He's a big guy, but he got a lot of skill, and he knows how to play with the puck, and he's great in the offensive zone.
Have you noticed the difference since last year, maybe this past season, in being able to protect the puck on the ice, just being a little bit stronger? I mean, do you feel like that has helped on the ice?
Yeah, I noticed this summer when we had training with my team in Borjat, just being in the corners, I won't fall so easily, and I think that helps a lot.
What are the things you have to do at your size to survive and succeed on the ice?
I think I just gotta be smarter, and quicker.
Do you have more room to grow? Are you comfortable with where you're at right now as far as your weight, or are you still looking to bulk up more?
Obviously, I need to get bigger, and I still don't weigh much compared to the other guys. So there's still improvement, yeah.
It's kind of a gradual thing, year by year.
Yeah.
To put on a few pounds.
Do you feel like you gained a lot of help from learning about nutrition and things here last year?
Yeah, I did eat a lot better last year than the year before. So they gave me a lot of help about that stuff.
What kind of feedback have you gotten from the development staff, whether it's Sean or Dan, about how you've come and what they want to see from you next?
They said that things are getting better every day, and they saw me getting bigger and stronger.
Does it make you happy that the Wings drafted a few more, or got more Finns and signed Oliver Cassidy?
Yeah, I mean, it's great to have a close friend, and I can show him around, so he's more comfortable here too.
Is a big thing with you anticipation, kind of seeing things almost before they happen, kind of having that hockey sense to think one step ahead of the bigger guys?
Sorry, I didn't get that.
When you're playing against bigger players, does a lot of it come down to just outthinking them on the ice?
I mean, yeah, you just gotta know what you do before you get the puck. You just can't stand around and just protect the puck because they will knock it out. So just gotta move a lot and outsmart them.
Let's now get into some goaltending prospects. Keith Petruzzelli. Art, I know that you've been really excited about him. He was playing in Quinnipiac the past few seasons. So why don't you get us started? Tell us why you like him.
Well, I'll tell you what. Keith, in the 2017 draft, when he was picked in the third round, the consensus there in the building in Chicago was this was the best player the Red Wings drafted at the time. He had a really difficult freshman year at Quinnipiac. Not very well. I talked to him. He's going to be part of my Prospects podcast on the Red and White Authority. He just needed to adjust to the books on and off the ice, and so he had a good sophomore year. Andrew Shortridge was his goaltending partner in Quinnipiac, who was signed actually by the San Jose Sharks. Petruzzelli just needs to keep getting better, and he needs to put on weight. He's 6'6", 185 pounds. I think, Daniela, you'll appreciate this. He could eat virtually every single minute of every single day and still not put on pounds. I mean, it's just amazing. I mean,
blessing and a curse.
Well, yeah, exactly right. And so,
is he on the Danny DeKaiser diet or what?
Right. Yeah. Danny DeKaiser's the only Red Wing that can eat like 4 or 5 pizzas after every game, and nothing will happen to him. But Keith Petruzzelli is a big goaltender. Again, needs to really work on quickness. This is a big year for him because Shortridge is now gone to San Jose, as I said, and Quinnipiac should have a very, very good team this year. He wants to play every game. He has to be the starting goaltender. He lost the starting job a couple of times, even though he had pretty good numbers last season in Quinnipiac. He had a horror show of a freshman season. So this year is the year where he needs to take that next step, elevate himself to be a number one goaltender at Division I level at Quinnipiac, a good program. And if he does that, then he will someday find himself within the Red Wing organization.
Art, you're absolutely right about his freshman year. He came to college with high expectations, and I don't know if that's good or bad for a player, because if you have high expectations, they expect the best from you, and when things don't work out, whether it's schooling or whether on the ice and your game's not where it should be or where it's expected to be, then you have some issues. And he has to learn just a little bit more, and I think he learned how grueling college hockey life is. And college hockey is tough. I mean, players practice a lot. You play twice a week, and you're exposed a lot of times, especially if you're a young player, a young goaltender. But, you know, he's learning. He's learning how to face adversity and mature as a goaltender and as a person as well. And he has a lot of potential, no doubt about it. And I think if you look at the Red Wing goaltending situation, and we talked about this with Philip Larson, a future goaltender with the Red Wings yesterday, is that this is an opportunity for him. He can come in here and he can start growing and showing what he can do, and perhaps maybe he and Larson could be the goaltenders of the future with Detroit.
And another goaltender that is in the system right now, he was drafted just last weekend in the 7th round, Carter Gylander. What do you guys think of him, and what do you think the Red Wings are looking for out of him this week?
Well, again, and yeah, I don't want to keep, blowing these guys up to, epic proportions here, but could be the steal of the draft.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when he was drafted, last pick, for where they got him and for his potential, this is really a young man to keep your eye on. If he keeps improving, I mean, he's big, his numbers are good, and I think that I'm not so sure what happened there, because people were a little bit stunned that I talked to in Vancouver that the Red Wings took him. But they were stunned because they just thought that he would have been bombarded with people wanting to sign him as an unrestricted free agent because he was undrafted, or maybe going to the draft next year. There's so many rules in hockey, I can't keep them straight at times. But this is a young man that I know the Detroit organization is extremely happy to have here. And he is somebody, if he lives up to just a little bit of his potential in advanced billing, they could have really gotten, as I said, a steal in the draft.
You look at goaltenders, and boy, big goaltenders. Petruzzelli, we just talked about, he's 6'6". This gentleman, Gylander, is 6'5". Has room to grow into that body, only 172 pounds. Loved the save percentage last year at .915. We talked about having a save percentage around there, and you're going to be a solid goaltender if you're around those numbers. 3 shutouts last year. 7th round pick, but obviously an opportunity to show the management and coaching staff what he can do. Like his commitment, he seems like he's angles pretty good from goal post to goal post. He moves his feet well. And again, playing college hockey at Colgate, that's just going to help him out.
Right, certainly. I talked to Brian Mahoney-Wilson a couple of days ago. I believe it was on Monday. He's the Red Wings development goaltending coach based in Grand Rapids, but every goalie in the system he keeps an eye on. And Gylander was out there, a little bit. And I asked him, I said, Brian, what about, he goes, I can't believe we've got this kid. And I mean, and Brian isn't one to, be effusive. No, most coaches aren't. Usually if you ask them about a player, they're knocking him down, they maybe keep him humble. But, I think the Red Wings are really impressed. As he fills out, becomes bigger, goes to Colgate, plays Division I hockey, he could be somebody that we're talking about in maybe, 4 or 5 years that could have a legitimate shot to be in the red and white.
All right, and guys, we're going to go back to forwards for a little bit here. We've got Albin, now correct me if I say this wrong, but Albin Grewe. He was drafted in the 3rd round 2019, so just this past weekend again. That's 66th overall, and I noticed now that you guys have pointed this out to me, he's wearing number 18, so that's a low number. Got to be pretty impressed with him, right?
Absolutely, and he's one of those guys that likes to mix it up out there on the ice. I looked at him and Jack Adams just moments ago in the corner, and they were cross-checking each other. He's a little bit of a pest out on the ice. He causes players to play hard, and I think you need those types of guys on your team if you're going to be successful. He makes life difficult for opponents, that's for sure. His play actually, Art, inspires his team, and sometimes you need a player with grit that when things aren't going right, all you need is a big body check or for someone to face wash somebody, and it seems to get your team going. And when you engage physically in a hockey game, especially early on, you set the tone for the pace of the game and the way the game's going to be played. And certainly Grewe is that kind of guy.
I would say that, he liked the comparison. They talked to him yesterday about Brian Marchand, and he said he likes that. He had 102 penalty minutes in 25 games for Djurgården of the Swedish Junior League. And I would say that he is the Swedish version of a Tyler Bertuzzi because he can agitate. He likes to play a rough and tumble game, but he can also put up some points. He can put points. And so I think that the Red Wings like him, 34 points in 24 games. 102 penalty minutes. So this is a young man that I think if he progresses now, it was weird reading some of the scouting reports on him. They thought that offensively he underachieved because he got too involved in the histrionics on the ice. Took a couple of dives. They figured he was like the best diver in his league and things like that. So if he can kind of temper that side of the game, still be aggressive, still be an agitator, still be a pest, and continue to progress offensively because he has those tools, then he could be a heck of a player for the Red Wings.
Detroit's a blue-collar city. We talk about it all the time, and guys like Darren McCarty come to mind when I think of a guy like Grewe, and fans are going to love him. If he comes here and he makes the team down the road and he plays that abrasive style, fans are really going to enjoy watching him play.
And before we move on, guys, let's remind everybody of the rest of the development streaming schedule for the week. We've got tomorrow and Saturday left in the week, but tomorrow we'll be live at 11:30 and then again at 6 p.m. for the 3-on-3 tournament right here in Little Caesars Arena. It'll be a lot of fun to see these guys playing on the ice that they could be playing on in the future. And then Saturday, of course, the red and white game. That stream will start at 11:30, obviously, again, right here on the main ice of Little Caesars Arena. So very excited to see these guys suit up. We haven't really been able to see them other than video, a lot of them.
The Red Wings have brought in, as we've said, a lot of players the last few drafts. The red and white game at one time was a bit of a snooze fest because there weren't a lot of prospects because the team was so loaded and so deep that Red Wings didn't draft many players there for a long time. That red and white game is going to be, these guys are going to be hell-bent for leather. I mean, it's going to be very, very competitive. I expect to see a lot of high-end talent on the ice in a very, very competitive game. I'm really looking forward to it.
And, Art and Daniela, we're going to talk a little bit about Jack Adams a little bit later, and you and I, Art, yesterday had a big discussion, and he's one of those players that always seems to play well in those red-white games.
He's in college. He knows this is it because he can't go to the prospects tournament. He can't go to training camp because he'll be with his buddies up in Union College with his teammates.
Let's talk about a guy that will be in net for those two games, Jesper Eliasson. He was drafted in 2018 in the 3rd round, so that's pretty high. What do you guys think about him?
Well, I think he's a work in progress, and what I mean by that is that he still has to learn, how to play to get to the pro level, and that's okay. I mean, you're a young guy coming in. You wanna just try to keep getting better and better each and every year that you play. Again, another tall goaltender, 6'3", 209 pounds. Love the save percentage at .919. Actually, his record last year pretty good, with 19 wins, only 11 losses, and 2 shutouts. 3rd round selection, 84th overall. What I like about his play, just watching him here on the ice, he has a really good blocker. And I know if we could focus in, he likes to throw that blocker out and stop pucks that way. I think one of the things that, in talking with the coaching staff and management, is that he has to work on his athleticism a little bit. He covers a lot of the net, but if he continues to work at that and improve, he'll be a solid goalkeeper.
I couldn't agree more with Ken's assessment. The thing that's good about Jesper that I think that the Red Wings do like about him is that they kind of equate him to being like a left-handed starting pitcher in baseball. Goaltenders come at different times. You just don't know. He has shown enough that they really, really like his potential and they like his work ethic. He's willing to listen. He's willing to he's coachable, I guess is what I'm saying. So I think, again, where the Red Wings are at in the goaltending situation, and don't kid yourself, these young men know that, with Jimmy Howard and Jonathan Bernier, with Father Time starting to catch up with both of those gentlemen, that there's opportunity here if you're a goaltender. And I think what we have seen from all the goaltenders that are in this camp, and actually all of them that have been in development camp the last few years, they're more than willing to listen, they're more than willing to learn, and they will work whatever it takes to get a legitimate shot at being a Red Wing.
The other thing I've noticed about him is that we have a good view. We're about at center ice watching him perform right now, and certain goaltenders take away almost the entire net. And we talked about him being big, but shooters, he doesn't give shooters a lot of net and doesn't give them a lot to look at. So, when you're a shooter, you got to come in and you look at where you want to shoot, but it looks like he just takes away the entire net. And I think that causes problems for opponents when they come in and try to pick a corner or try to score low.
His positioning is very, very good. You're absolutely right. He plays his angles really well, and now if he can get the moving from side to side a little bit more quickness, he could be a real find.
Let's go back to the forwards, guys. Matthew Bizier is a center, and he's a free agent invitee for this development camp. What do you guys know about him, and what do you think the Red Wings saw in him?
Well, he played in the Q. He had 39 points in 68 games, 14 goals, 25 assists, penalty minutes, 32. I mean, I think this is another guy that they look at. Obviously free agent invitee, not drafted, that if he can show enough, his goal right now is to show enough that he has potential, he's willing to be developed, and that, he has a good offensive skill set. But Ken, I would imagine that this would have to be a player that has to show that he can play that 200-foot game.
Absolutely. And, we talked about it a little bit yesterday, and not only just showing what he has here for Detroit, but if he somehow doesn't make the Red Wings, he wants other teams to take a look at him, and he gets an opportunity there. He's going to show this management and coaching staff everything he can during this development camp and also in the years to come. It seems like he's a pretty good skater. He's got good edges and can maneuver the puck well. But again, he's one of those long shots that we talked about yesterday afternoon. And, it's just a wait-and-see type of thing with him.
Right. The Quebec League is a run-and-gun league. I mean, they move up and down. Everybody puts up big numbers. Zadina put up big numbers. Veleno put up 104 points last year. So he definitely has a skill side and an offensive side to him. He just needs to round out his game to give himself, as Ken said, if not a shot here in Detroit with perhaps another organization.
All right, guys, we're going to move on again to another forward, Gregor McLeod. And I know that he was signed by the Griffins back in March. What do you see out of him?
Well, again, I mean, 84 points in 60 games for Drummondville. So, he's obviously a former teammate of Joe Veleno. It'd be interesting to maybe we should get Joe up here and ask. Hey, Joe, what do you think? Obviously, as I just said, the Quebec League's an offensive league, and he's put up the numbers to prove that. So, again, he is another guy that is going to have to show that he's a complete hockey player, that he does have an offensive or a defensive side to his game, and he can play a 200-foot game.
Signed by Grand Rapids on March the 26th of this year, 2019. And the thing about playing with Drummondville or in the Quebec League, you're going to put up a lot of points. That doesn't translate into the next level. And,
no, it does not.
And it's going to get tougher, and he's going to figure it out, and he'll have to figure it out. And those points that you're getting in the Quebec League, you're not going to get in the American League.
Right, and he's going to need to figure it out. And the AHL is a good place for him. His numbers are good enough, and I think Grand Rapids, obviously, you can always use offense. Probably look at him as somebody that that they can they can turn into a complete hockey player, and he can hopefully still some of his offensive numbers can translate at the AHL level. And if he continues to progress, and I know we're sounding a bit redundant here, he can put himself in a position to move up the chain.
And the other thing, too, Art, is you get a lot of confidence when you're playing in the Quebec League and you're putting all those points on the board, so you know you can do it. And it's going to get a little tougher at the next level, but it's confidence in the fact that you can put up the points on the board.
And Grand Rapids is a great place to play. Just the fan base, the facilities that they have at Van Andel Arena, and then Ben Simon and his coaching staff, and Ryan Martin, assistant Red Wing general manager, who's the general manager of Grand Rapids. So that's a good system. That's a good environment. I think for somebody, this is a great place for Matthew to be. To develop his game. I don't think if he couldn't come right out and make the NHL right away, playing for the Grand Rapids Griffin is a pretty good alternative to keep honing your skill.
Let's go on to another forward that you guys have briefly mentioned already, but Jack Adams. He was drafted in 2017 in the 6th round. So, Ken, we'll start with you. Give me your thoughts on him.
Well, that's Art's boy, isn't it?
He's one of our bloggers in our Taking Flight series. You Don't Know Jack is the name of his blog, and he's a super young man, and his head is in total engrossed in reality, if that makes sense.
6'5", 204 pounds. He played 38 games last year, 22 points. I like the fact that he can protect the puck and maneuver through defenders. For a big guy, that's hard to do. And He also has good vision on the ice, and I think he has to learn to get a little more aggressive along the boards for being a big guy. But a lot of times he'll go into the corners and come out of the puck, and that's what he's able to do. He can create plays out there, and as long as he continues to improve on his skating, he's got some soft hands, a nose for the net. And you have size like that, you can be a really good, strong power forward in the National Hockey League if you know how to use that size.
Well, the interesting thing about Jack Adams, and this was documented on DetroitRedWings.com all year, just before the hockey season started, his 28-year-old brother, Rue, who won a national championship with Providence, was a defenseman, suddenly died. And it obviously tore him apart. It tore his family apart. The hockey world, the entire hockey world, from the Red Wings to the opponents in college to, obviously his coaching staff and teammates all rallied behind him and gave him an inner strength. So here's somebody, he's a Boston guy, hey, what's up, I guess that's a New York guy, but
Pak the car,
yeah, right, Pak the car, right, but he is really grounded. He's a lot more mature. He realizes he has 2 more years now in order to be offered a contract by the Red Wings. And certainly last year at development camp, and Ken's right, every red and white game, he at least gets a couple of goals, 2 or 3 points. He knows that this is it for him. This is the only time that he can be on Detroit ice and that they can actually see him unless they go out to Union College because of NCAA rules. I would say this, Chris Draper, last year we asked him who's somebody that is standing out that, is in the high draft pick or an uninvited free agency, and without hesitation he said Jack Adams. He has the mindset, very intelligent young man, great writer. You got to check his blog out. You don't know Jack. I think that if he doesn't make it, it's not going to be for lack of effort or an understanding. He himself will tell you, I got to be quicker, bigger guys come later, but he understands the position he's in, and I think he has the right mindset. And, honest, I hope he does well. I really do. What he's faced, what he's gone through, and the way he has conducted himself, that's a guy that you have to root for.
And let's stay with the forwards and look at our next prospect. This is Troy Loggins. He was also signed by the Griffins back in March. And he's from California, Huntington Beach, California. And I know yesterday we talked about our prospect from Texas, and Art had mentioned that you don't see many guys coming from states like that. So what do you think it is about Troy? Ken, we'll start with you.
Well, he's at Northern Michigan, right? He played 39 games and had 40 points, so obviously he's a point-per-game player up there. I really don't know that much about Troy Loggins. Just watching him here on the ice, it seems like, he's got a pretty good head. He can see the ice pretty well, and, he's one of those guys that I think competes well and makes the best out of the situations that he's in. He's a left-handed shooting forward. And, he's a left winger by trade, and he's one of those players, again, that was signed by Grand Rapids, as you said, Daniela, and he's trying to make a big impression here in front of the coaching staff.
I think Ken's absolutely right. I mean, if the Griffins signed him, they obviously have seen something, and I think, again, it's probably that he has a high skill level and can put some points up. Again, for Troy, the thing is will he be able to adjust to the time and space of a pro game? Will he develop a 200-foot game? Will he put himself in a situation, a guy like that, on the power play and special teams? We haven't really talked too much about, and when we were talking about Taro Hirose excelled on the power play. I mean, he really did. And, he needs to find a spot. Either he turns into a supreme penalty killer or he comes out on the power play and is able to either distribute the puck and get assists or score goals himself. So, again, another work in progress, but because he was signed by Grand Rapids, he will have that opportunity to develop his game.
And I'm assuming about our next guy, you guys are going to have a lot of similar things to say. It's Owen Robinson. He was a free agent invitee, just like the other few that we have talked about. And you guys mentioned that they just have to prove something out here on the ice this week. So talk a little more about what he's going to be trying to do in the next couple days.
Well, he has a positive attitude. That's the one thing, and just talking with him, he's working at getting stronger. And, I think that's important for a young player. He's 170 pounds, a lot of room to develop. But he's a pretty good skater, has an inner drive to push himself to be better. That's one of the things I've noticed. And he has that ability, Art, to separate himself, to get by defenders when he's playing. Very professional. If you talk to anybody, that knows about Robinson. They say he has a lot of class. He's very committed. He gives you a lot of effort out there on the ice, but a true professional at an early age right now for Robinson.
What is it with all these guys being 170 pounds? I mean, it doesn't matter how tall they are.
You think they all eat as much as you said Petruzzelli did?
I don't know. I know when Ken and I were in high school, we were.
I was 180 pounds in high school.
I'm kind of wondering what's going on here. But obviously they take care of themselves. Not that Ken and I didn't, but it was a different time. Fast food was just coming into play, and so we had to try everything. But I think about Owen Robinson. Certainly he's in a little bit different situation because he isn't signed by the Griffins. He's an invitee. He has to show maybe a little bit more than the Griffin signees because those guys know that they're going to be going to Grand Rapids. Compete level, and I think that the thing that the Red Wings stressed at the draft, and I'm sure when they decided the guys that they were going to invite to the development camp, they all have to have two things: high compete level, high hockey IQ. And, Owen certainly has that. Now it's just up to him to see how quickly he can adapt to this environment and where his next opportunity will be.
Another invitee that we're going to touch on, it's Thomas Casey, and he's a 5'8" center. I know we've been talking a little bit about the size of these guys, being only 5'8" and being a free agent invitee. What is he trying to do? Like I said, in the next couple days, these are guys that are all fighting for just a chance, right?
I think when you look at the Red Wings overall and you look at the big picture, they're pretty well balanced. It's not all small guys. It's not all big guys. I think back in the day when you looked at the Red Wings, they called them the Smurfs because you had Nyquist and you had Tatar, and these are guys that could toe drag the puck and make things happen on a skilled basis. But I think you see a lot of balance right now, so that's good for management to look at and a lot to choose from. Speed has always been Casey's calling card, in my opinion. When he plays in straight lines going north and south, he's a nightmare for defensemen, and he can really generate a lot of speed. We know what speed can do in the National Hockey League. It kills. And, you look at Andreas Athanasiou and what he can do. This man has a lot of speed. He knows how to score. And when you can get those two together, speed and scoring, you're going to be dangerous.
He's 185 pounds, first and foremost, so I tip my cap to him.
A little bigger.
And he's
just a little.
5'8", 185. But from watching him, it looks like he is tough to ride off the puck. He has great control that way, and I think because he is a little bit bulkier, he's a little sturdier, that is a good sign. Is that if once he gets the puck, you can't take it away from him, and I think he shields it very, very well, and he uses his body to his advantage, and he does have some grit and some size. Again, it'll come down to being able to see if he can adapt to this environment and exactly what the next step will be.
And similarly, Odin Tufto, he's also 5'8". He came from Quinnipiac, so he probably has been with Keith Petruzzelli a little bit.
Right.
But he's invited as a free agent. What did the Red Wings see in him that brought him to development camp?
I think they probably like the fact that he had 42 points in 38 games, including 15 goals, 16 penalty minutes. I think probably for Quinnipiac and the system that they play, that he is pretty sound defensively as well. I think that his 200-foot game is there. We talk about this, but I think the one thing even though, as Ken said, the Red Wings are well balanced, the Red Wings could use some centers. I think if you look at it up front, they have a nice core of wingers, and virtually everybody. Center is kind of like shortstop in baseball. Like the best player is always a center, but as the weeding out process, you switch positions. So I think that if you look at it, the Red Wings seem more than happy to have really high-end talent as far as high skill level, and that's what the centers seem to be. They seem to be maybe smaller guys, except for Veleno or something, but that can put points on the board and are shifty and are playmakers and have, as again, I know I keep saying it, but a high hockey IQ. So I think that it's not surprising that they, if you look at it, and a lot of players that we've talked about today are centers.
The thing about Tufto, just talking with different people, is that he thinks the game at an elite level. And I think if you can think at an elite level like he can, I think there's a positive future for you somewhere down the line. He's always a step ahead of his opponents, it seems. And he's a pretty smart cookie because he's going to college. He's majoring in finance. He's good at numbers. And, I think when you're smart and you can think and you're ahead of your opponent, it just helps you out more and more. And you touched on, Art, about his overall defensive game, and that's something that he really wants to work at, blocking shots, concentrating on not turning the puck over, hates making mistakes out there. So as long as he continues to improve and work on those parts of his game, plus being smart, I think he has a bright future ahead of him.
Right, and he's a little bit older too. So, so he has a good maturity level. I think he's like 21 or 22 years old because of college. And so, certainly he understands it. He gets it. He's one of those players that doesn't have like the stars in his eyes. He fully understands where he's at and what he needs to do.
And we're coming up on the end of our day 3 stream for development camp. We've still got a couple days left of that. We'll be back tomorrow at 11:30 a.m. and then again at 6 p.m. for 3-on-3, and Saturday again 11:30 a.m. So please tune into all that. We thank you guys for being here. A few guys that we didn't get to, so you'll get to hear a lot about them between tomorrow and Saturday. So we're looking forward to that, and we hope you tune in. Thanks, guys. We'll see you tomorrow.
See you. Have fun.
Goodbye.